Come because Ramaswamy.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
Good to talk to you, Chad.
A few moments later.
Why do you think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left? Why is this a lot more pervasive on the right?
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy like this one.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about Vivek Ramaswamy once again because he's all over the place. I mean, he is on all of these mainstream liberal media outlets and also on right-wing outlets as well, too, and podcasts. And he's just talking to anybody that he can talk to. Doesn't matter what the subject is, he's talking about it. And it's interesting because all the other GOP candidates are not going on the mainstream liberal media to have these types of discussions like Vivek Ramaswamy, at least not at the same frequency. Which, again, is fascinating because it seems to me that they're totally fine with allowing GOP and Republican candidates to come on their networks. They just don't seem to want to, right? At least not as much as Vivek Ramaswamy does, which is kind of why he's on all these networks. And he's constantly pushing back against the narrative from the mainstream liberal media. And he's going to do that once again when discussing this mass shooting that happened in Jacksonville, Florida, in which a white man killed 3 black people in what allegedly is a racially motivated hate crime. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy is going to call out the hypocrisy of the race hustling, race baiting media, which is what Chuck Todd is going to do here. And he's going to call him out on the hypocrisy of the manifestos. The fact that this manifesto basically is going to be released almost immediately. We already know the motive, the alleged motive. But when it comes to the mass shooting that happened in Nashville that affected a Christian school that was committed by a transgender person, we haven't seen it, right? They don't want us to see it. They don't want to release it to the public for whatever reason. And again, he's going to openly call this out on NBC. And this is just another example of Vivek just doing things that other GOP candidates just aren't willing to do for whatever reason. It's pretty fascinating. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Let me start with the tragedy that took place in Jacksonville. This is what Sheriff Waters, how he described the incident last night.
This shooting was racially motivated, and he hated black people. He wanted to kill. He targeted a certain group of people, and that's black people. That's what he said he wanted to kill, and that's very clear. And I don't know that the targets were specific, but I know that any member of that race at that time was in danger.
Both the FBI and DHS in the last 2 years have said that racially motivated violent extremism is on the rise. This is clearly part of that. What would a President Ramaswamy want the Justice Department to do about this racially motivated violence that we're seeing on the rise?
I think that every criminal deserves to be punished to the fullest extent of the law, especially when they're carrying out premeditated crimes like this one. This is a heinous crime. My heart goes out to the families who were affected by this. It is tragic, and this should not be happening in the United States of America. I think the fact of the matter is, Chuck, it is really just a symptom of a deeper, new form of national division that we have created. And I think one of my top jobs as the next U.S. president is really to lead with a national tone of character that reminds us of how we are all united across our diverse attributes. I think part of the problem is we have obsessed so much over racial and other genetic differences that we have forgotten all of the ways we're really the same as a country. And I do think we need a leader and in the White House developing that national character for this country again. We also do have a mental health epidemic across this country, Chuck, that really is reflective of a hunger for purpose and meaning. We need to fill that void, address the mental health epidemic, but this is a tragedy and deserves to be called out as heinous. That's exactly what it was.
Why do you think there are more race-based violent crimes on the right than on the left? Why is this a lot more pervasive on the right?
Oh my God, what a silly question. Again, where do you get this? Where do you get this from, Chuck? Where is your evidence to back up these claims? There's more racially motivated hate crimes on the right than it is on the left. Wow. Again, this is the type of race hustling, race baiting that you see on the mainstream liberal media. He's trying to politicize this, okay? He's trying to make something that's not political. We don't know what this guy's political association is. I mean, he could be a leftist, right? There are such things as leftist white supremacists. I mean, we saw what happened in Buffalo. That guy was a left-wing white supremacist, okay? That's what he was. But Chuck Todd, in his mind, he's already got the answers, right? He's already got the answers. He's got his mind made up. And what he's doing to his audience is basically trying to say a wink and a nod, wink, wink. This came from the right, right? This came from the right. This guy was a right-winger. He was a Trump supporter. He's a MAGA guy. They do the same thing every single time, and it's disgusting. It is disgusting when they do this.
Well, the fact of the matter is, I think that there's a lot more violence that's also pervasive in parts of the country that supposedly are left-wing voter bases. So I don't think this is a left versus right issue, and I don't think we should try to politicize this through partisan goggles either, Chuck, especially in the wake of a tragedy like this one. The fact is there are more black men dying on the south side of Chicago.
Do you ignore the elements that allowed this manifesto to spread online, and that what we're, it does feel as if social media connects some of these hateful ideologies?
Well, the fact of the matter is I do think we have two standards that we're even applying if we're having a conversation about manifestos. We still have not yet even seen the manifesto of that transgender shooter in Nashville of a Christian school, and yet here we're focusing on the motive. So if we want to look at this through a politicized lens, let's look at what the political media and the political establishment is doing differentially in how they analyze different crimes and then create a new narrative around it.
Facts. That's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening. It, depending on who does it, they create a different narrative just depending on whether or not it fits the narrative that they want. With this one right here, because it's white on black and allegedly is racially motivated, they're going to play it up as if, oh, this is an indictment on whites, right? This is an indictment on just how bad white supremacy is in this country and just how terrible black folks have it. Okay, it's going to be an indictment against all whites. That's the way they're going to frame it. But when it's black on black, it's not an indictment against black people in regards to how bad black people treat each other. No. That's actually the white man's fault too, because the white man made him do it, right? When it's black on white, it's just ignore it. It doesn't exist, right? They're not going to have a conversation about it. They're not going to talk about it. Again, I have done multiple stories of black on white hate crimes, murders, and they haven't gotten nearly the press that this story is getting. And I'm not saying that this story shouldn't get pressed. I'm just saying all the stories should get pressed, right? We do have a racial issue in this country, but the problem is that the racial issue is getting worse because of the two standards of coverage. The fact that we don't tackle all the racism, okay? Like we tackle some forms of racism that is white on black, but we don't tackle it when it's the other way around. We don't address it when it's the other way around. That's the problem. You're actually creating more racism. And that's a point that Vivek is going to bring up here.
The fact is, what I said in the Nashville shooter case, I will say here. Any killing, any mass killing is heinous. We need to get to the root cause of the mental health epidemic, address that. We need leadership that sets the right tone in this country. But if we are going to talk about manifestos and politicization, Chuck, I think it is incomplete not to look at the absence of releasing that Nashville shooter manifesto, even as of today. That's why I personally traveled to Nashville to call for it. And that, I think, is the best evidence of real politicization in terms of what the public sees and what the public doesn't. I want to apply one standard for everybody. I don't want to look at this through partisan goggles. I want to look at this through one standard of the rule of law for everybody.
You believe racism is a mental health issue?
Well, I do believe that racism in many cases is manufactured in a way that creates more racism in this country. I cannot think of a greater way, Chuck, of driving racism in this country than to take something else away from someone based on the color of their skin. And so is there existing racism in the United States? Of course there is. But those last burning embers of racism, the last thing I want to do is throw kerosene on it. And yet that's exactly what I believe the modern culture is doing by creating race-based quota systems that deny people access to goods or services based on the color of their skin. The right answer to stop discrimination on the basis of race, as John Roberts said it, is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. And I am genuinely worried that we're seeing a new wave of anti-black and anti-Hispanic racism as a consequence of the so-called anti-racist movements.
Your argument comes across as blaming those that are trying to create equality for the rise in racism.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that is what it is, right? That's exactly what it is. Okay, and first of all, they're not trying to create equality. They're actually trying to create inequality. They don't want equality. They want special rights and privileges. And when you're demanding special rights and privileges, you're going to make people more racist. That's what's going to happen. Okay, that's exactly what's happening. And the fact that the mainstream liberal media refuses to acknowledge it and doesn't want to call it out for what it is, you're a part of the problem, Chuck. They're not trying to create equality. None of these people are trying to create equality. They don't want equal treatment. They don't believe in treating everybody equally. They don't believe in that, right? What they believe is treating people differently based off their skin color and their race. That's what they believe. That's what the woke race hustlers believe. But see, again, Vivek is the only GOP candidate that is going on television, the liberal media, and giving the liberal media a taste of their own medicine, calling out the liberal media, calling out the woke race hustlers when it comes to this race conversation. He is literally their worst nightmare when it comes to this conversation about race. Okay, he is their worst nightmare. Okay, this is why he's being smeared so much in the mainstream liberal media right now. This is why he's been attacked, because they know that this man is dangerous. He is a dangerous weapon for conservatives when it comes to this race conversation. Okay, and this is a prime example.
Well, the fact is, Chuck, I don't want to be playing a blame game. I want to be going towards a solution. And I am genuinely worried that those who earnestly espouse the view, I'm going to quote Ibram Kendi from his book directly, I'm not putting words in anybody's mouth, says the right answer to past discrimination is present discrimination. The right answer to present discrimination is future discrimination. I believe the people who hold that view are earnest about it, but I think they're wrong. And I think that that's actually creating more discrimination and more division in our country. And I think the right answer is actually to restore colorblind equality, colorblind meritocracy, embrace what unites us across our diversity instead of celebrating our skin-deep diverse attributes. That's how I think we reunite this country, Chuck. And it's not blaming anybody else for having a different point of view, but I do think that as a leader, it's my job to articulate exactly how we will unite this country. And that's exactly how I'm going to do it.
Let me move to the debate.
Facts, right? Facts. I mean, he's right. Could have said it better myself. These people who come out here and call for more discrimination against people, aka discrimination against whites, to try to remedy what happened in the past, are just creating more racism and discrimination. That's what's happening. And to pretend like anything else is happening, it's just you're contributing to the problem. Now, I don't know what radicalized this shooter. I don't know what made this shooter go and commit this act of violence, right? But to me, in my opinion, I could see somebody being radicalized from listening to the liberal media and their constant demonization of white people as so bad and terrible for this country and, you know, yada, yada, yada. I can see somebody listening to that and being like, you know, these people don't like me. I can see people being radicalized by that. So again, I love how Vivek is, I mean, he's dropping truth bombs, right? He's dropping truth bombs all over the place on the media. And again, it's fascinating because you don't see other Republicans doing this. You don't see other Republicans doing this. And this is why these people that come out here and try to say he's fake, I'm trying to figure out, what does being fake gain you in 2023 when you're out here saying stuff like this, right? When you're saying stuff that this guy is saying, what is he gaining out of this if he don't really believe it? I know he believes it, right? Because he's one of these Indian guys, right? Especially when it comes to affirmative action. He's like, yeah, I don't want to be held back because I'm smarter than everybody else because I can outcompete everybody else. Again, I'm trying to figure out what's fake about being subject to this type of ridicule from the mainstream liberal media, being smeared as a Nazi. Okay, they're gonna say he's espousing Nazi talking points, white supremacy. He's associated with Trump. If anything, all this stuff could kill his business career. It could kill his reputation. He's putting his reputation on the line. I mean, the guy's out here talking about abolishing the FBI. What do you gain from that? What are you gaining out of that? I'm trying to figure it out, because if this is fake, then he's probably the dumbest smart person I've ever seen in my life. But I don't think that's the case. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.